Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Shadow at Night Special Election Night Edition. It's Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Hello to Blair watching on X tonight. How are you doing, my friend? RJ is watching on YouTube. I got a strike there last night for medical misinformation, although they wouldn't point out exactly what it was I said or the video I played or the story I read that led to that conclusion. I have launched an appeal, and hopefully I'll hear the next couple of days. But if you're looking for last night's show on YouTube, it's not there. It's gone. So you're going to have to find it on Facebook or Twitch or X or Telegram or Rumble, or I'd prefer shadowdavis.com. We have an interview with Jason Christoph up there. So far, it's garnered, I think 750 views. The entire interview. We played 20 minutes or so for you last night. The entire 100-minute, 98 minutes. Okay, 98 minutes and 37 seconds. The entire 98-minute, 37-second video conversation with myself and Jason Christoph is on shadowdavis.com right now in the special interview section of the website. So go become an all-access member and enjoy that interview. Fascinating at some of the stuff he pointed out. Hello, Debbie, watching on Facebook in Oak Bank. Lauren is watching in Southeast Saskatchewan. Hello, Wallace. Meadow Lake in the house tonight. All right. Eddie's watching tonight. Eddie from Stonewall, that is. John is watching tonight. John McMorrin. You don't say where you're watching from, John, so I had to put your last name out there because I think there's only about 3 or 4 Johns in the world, right? Hello, Bill. Hello, Rosa, Mike, Barbara, Mireille, Kathy, Barb, and Hope, wherever, whatever you guys are watching on tonight, whether it is any of the social media platforms, get it out there to as many people as we possibly can. It's very important. We have a consequential election going on in the United States tonight, and I would suggest it's consequential for, well, the entire world, whether you see it as round or flat. It is exceptionally important, and we do have some good news to share for you, but it's very, very early on in the process. So we're going to cover that tonight. We do have some Canadian news to get to as well, some funny stuff and all of that. So get this out to as many people as you possibly can, guys. I really appreciate it. It helps me. It helps the show. It helps get the word out. And it really helps to keep me going. The Shadow at Night live stream is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com. The Recover Muscle Cream. Experience the ultimate comfort and relaxation as Recover works its magic, formulated with cutting-edge technology. The advanced muscle cream provides unparalleled relief, catering to your unique needs, made with the power of SilverCeutical technology. This and all of the other fantastic products are available at CanadaNanoSilver.com, CanadaNanoSilver.com. Some people still have qualms about ordering online. Now, I'll tell you, this is not Amazon, and this is not, what is that other one? That one that's sweeping. It's all over social media right now. You can't swing it. I'm not going to say that expression because people will take offense. What is it called? It's not Roku. That's a TV thing. But I'm close. Anyway, it's not that. It's not that. It's right from the dealer, which in this case happened to be Kevin and Anna, based just north of Winnipeg. Canadians, just like us, freedom-loving Canadians who support this show. So by supporting CanadaNanoSilver.com, you are supporting this show. Thank you very much. You can make an order online through the website, or you can find a retail location near you. There's over 30 across Canada, scattered through Alberta, BC, Manitoba, Newfoundland, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan. And if you would like to become a retailer of these awesome products, then get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. I was looking for a good source to cover the election with tonight. And I thought about Fox News, and then I thought about MSNBC and all the big bigs, right? But I've been following this kid for the last year or so. He runs a website or a YouTube channel. It's called Election Time. And he's 17 years old.
What I've been saying in my last few prediction videos. So you can see on the bottom right there, Texas is going to be red. He may even win it by a solid margin. He is now at 178.
He's got 304,000 subscribers. He's shooting for a goal, as you can see in the bottom left corner, of 325,000 tonight. A bit of an annoying voice, I will say, but knows his stuff. And he called, and he proved this by showing it on screen. He called, and I went and checked it for myself on his website. He called down to the last electoral college seat, the 2020 election. 17 years old, this kid. So we're going to follow him tonight. And of course, we're also going to follow the New York Times election map, which shows right now at this stage of the game, and it's very early on. We're going to keep covering this on and off as we go through the show tonight. Donald Trump leading Kamala Harris by 120 electoral college seats to 99. And there's the map right there. Again, very early on, but it looks like they've already declared Florida for Donald Trump with 56.2% of the vote. These ones are still too early in the game, 56% reporting in Texas. New Mexico seems kind of surprising, although it's only 1% of the vote. Hey, why don't we go ahead and tell you where the polls have closed already and when the results should start rolling in. So Indiana, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, West Virginia, Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, North Dakota, eastern part of the state, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Dakota, the majority of the state there, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington. Arkansas has closed now, and Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, Nevada, North Dakota, the western part of the state, South Dakota, all of the state now, Texas, Wisconsin, and Wyoming have all closed their polling down. Yet to come at 9 o'clock Central tonight will be Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, and then California, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and finally tonight at 11 o'clock Central Time, Alaska and Hawaii. So that's where we're sitting at right now with the U.S. election. What's going on in Canada? I'm sure you guys have heard of Harrison Faulkner. Harrison works for an operation called True North News, TNC.news, and he's a brave young man. He goes out on the street and he covers these protests. Kind of like Dacey, kind of like Right Blend, Patriot Smoothie does in Ottawa. Harrison does it closer to Toronto. That's his home base. And he was out last night reporting on the hijinks between Khalistanis and Hindus. And here's what he got.
Khalistani people.
Oh, by the way, this is in Brampton, Ontario.
Attack on our temple. We want arrest for those people, idiot people who entered our temple.
Talk to him. He's gonna print it otherwise.
No problem.
Why the reason to block the road?
Block the road to awake the government, awake the public. Right? We Hindu all together.
What do you make of the Trudeau government's response?
Yeah, we want they should be charged. That's why we block. Police should be charged them.
We are protesting against the Peel police, the way how they behaved with us. They entered the temple premises and they
are partial.
Yeah, they are impartial. The police is impartial. So we are showing our anger towards the police, how they behaved yesterday.
I have a picture of the police officer.
Okay. So doesn't the free speech count for us? Doesn't the free speech work for us?
No, I think it does.
Where are the culprits from Peel police?
Yeah.
3 police officers were involved, only one who was protected.
Why did they hit us inside?
Who gave them right to hit any
them the right?
individual? Who
This
gave
is
them
the
right?
police officer. This is the police officer. This is the guy who killed our Indian Hindu people.
Hindus are the most peace-loving community in Canada. They never are part of any violence. They never demand anything. But I know. But the right message needs to go through. I know what his audience watches. I know. But he has to show what I am talking about.
Yes, he's the Indian.
To enter a holy place, we worship here. Like when they're gonna enter in a church, how you gonna react?
Well, I think it's wrong.
It's wrong.
I think it's wrong.
That's why we are here. They enter inside the temple to attack us.
From Canada. He wants Hindu to be out from Canada, you know. He's the guy.
Have you ever seen any Hindus protesting outside,
he
out
tweets
of there,
every day.
without
He
any
tweets
reason?
every day
We were
against Hindus.
attacked yesterday. Our temple was attacked.
Attacking a holy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, don't. Easy there. What do you make of the police reaction from yesterday?
Man, you know 1984, yo? Like from George Orwell, that's what the police is like. The police is a two-tier police system. They only go after those who they deem a threat to the state. Let's say you say something about Trudeau, the police go after you. You represent an ethnic cause like this, the police also go after you. But if you're a terrorist, they don't care.
Why don't they come and attack us now? Like, why would they come and attack us like that? Like, in a very sneaky manner.
The Calistanis yesterday.
Yeah, are they Calistini cowards? I think that's what they are. That's who they are.
Protest is actually, according to the protesters themselves, a protest against the Peel police. And they have been walking the police back and swarming the police, essentially. This is unbelievable. I have not seen this before. So the scenes you are watching right now are not taking place in Mumbai or New Delhi. This is taking place currently in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. Thousands of Hindus here in Brampton have taken over the street and are protesting against the Khalistani movement as well as the local police, the Peel police. They accuse the Peel police of supporting Khalistan and two-tier policing against Hindus here. They're now standing on top of cars, waving Indian flags and chanting in a foreign language. They're chanting in Hindi here.
The Hindus I've met are a very gentle and caring people. And I've spoken to many over the years. I can't say I've spoken to many Sikhs over the years, so I can't say anything about them. I have no personal experience with Sikhs. The Khalistani movement are Sikhs, a separation movement in India. And now it's going on in Canada. And that happened because of Justin Trudeau and his immigration policies. It's never been like this in Canada before. It shouldn't be now. And I can understand. I mean, at least that one Hindu fella there, he was very passionate about what's going on. Don't mess with our religion. Don't mess with our temples. I get that. But why is it, it seems anyway, according to the Hindus, that the police are favoring the Khalistanis over the Hindus here? Are their orders coming right from the top? Two-tier policing? We know that Jagmeet Singh is a Sikh and a supporter of the Khalistani movement. He's also partnered with Justin Trudeau, at least informally, to keep the Liberals in power. So could it be that Jagmeet Singh is directing police actions or non-actions in Brampton at present? Just a question I thought I'd put out there. What I can tell you is this should not be happening in our country. It shouldn't be happening in our country. The police need to crack down on this hard on both sides. And remember last night I read to you the oath of citizenship for Canada? Not being followed here. Meanwhile, in British Columbia.
Meantime, BC's election was supposed to be over 16 days ago, but today revelations about missing ballot boxes and miscounted ballots were revealed by the province's elections watchdog, throwing into question the thin margin of the NDP's majority victory. For more, let's bring in Rob Shaw of the BC legislature. Rob, it's the election that just keeps on giving. What's happening?
Well, Stacey, it's kind of a mess. Elections BC today saying there were several problems in the election count, one of which directly impacts the 27-vote victory the NDP had in Surrey-Guildford that allowed them to claim their majority government victory by 1 seat. Let me walk you through this confusing situation here. The first problem is what election officials today said is a discovery of a ballot box in the riding of Prince George Mackenzie that was never counted. There's 861 votes in it that weren't counted. Elections BC's ordered a judicial recount there. The margin of victory in this riding for the Conservatives was more than 5,000 votes. So while this is troubling, it's not going to change the outcome. The second is Surrey-Guildford, and news today of 14 missing votes in that riding, which has shrunk the NDP lead from 27 to 21 upon counting. The entire NDP government hangs on that riding with a judicial recount set for Thursday and Friday of this week. And missing votes in 69 other ridings today, too, centered around this new ability to vote anywhere out of your district and get your vote counted this election. Elections BC saying there were 6 ridings that made mistakes on tabulator tapes that have affected 0.5% of the vote in those other ridings. So all of this super confusing and worrying, given both the close election and the fact that the NDP's majority hangs in the balance. The integrity of electoral systems are under attack in places like the United States, as you saw in Corey's story and elsewhere. So this does not help inspire confidence in elections BC. Chief Electoral Officer Anton Bogman today not responding to interview requests. The parties themselves trying to navigate this very carefully. The NDP saying they're glad there are some safeguards to catch these things. Conservative leader John Rustad demanding an independent review of Elections BC, saying this is an unprecedented failure by the elections agency that's supposed to ensure fair elections, and he wants to take a look at it, saying he doesn't necessarily dispute the results, but this undermines, Stacey, the public confidence in our election system.
Yeah. Do you recall before these voting machines came into play, any problems at all with election results when we were using pencils and papers? X, box, counted, results, boom. Now, maybe that was part of the matrix we were in before. I don't know. Could be they've been cheating all along and we just didn't notice because we were sleepwalking through it. And now we're wide awake and we're looking everywhere for fraud. By the way, in Pennsylvania today, apparently there were Russian bomb threats at some voting places there. Philadelphia, I think it was. So we'll have that story coming up. And the Proud Boys say they're going to be monitoring all polling stations all night long if the election is not declared down there before midnight. They're going to go and they're going to watch for guys carrying boxes like we saw in 10,000 Mules. This is so good. And, you know, the reason I laugh is because this election is so very important. This is not about one guy saying your taxes are going to be 35%, the other guy saying your taxes are going to be 50%. This is about communism versus the cabal we know. Communism, totalitarianism, Marxism versus the cabal we know. I would rather stay in the cabal we know for now until we can come up with a better plan. Ricky Gervais does not like it when celebrities endorse political candidates. Here's one of his bathroom videos.
Hi guys, Ricky G here, wellness and beauty influencer. As a celebrity, I know all about stuff, like science and politics. So trust me when I tell you who you should vote for. If you don't vote the right way, it's like a hate crime, and it makes me sad and angry, and I'll leave the country. And you don't want that.
That's creepy and hilarious at the same time. I'm not sure if you guys have been following the polling of the U.S. election, but let's go to the Blaze guy to give us his prediction. This was released a couple of hours ago before the first polls closed, I believe, just like 5 o'clock Central Time this afternoon. And let's see exactly how it holds up as the night goes on. By the way, I'm not going to tell you who he calls to win.
Back with the final part of the election chalkboard for the presidential side, and we have a bunch of swing states. Let's put them up there. You're probably familiar with these names by now. Georgia with 16 electoral votes. North Carolina, 16 electoral votes. Arizona, 11 electoral votes. Nevada, 6 electoral votes. Michigan, 15 electoral votes. Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes, and of course the big boy, Pennsylvania, with 19 electoral votes. What does that mean? Well, we have 93 electoral votes we've been keeping in this toss-up category this entire time. And this is where the decision and the presidential election gets made. Let's go through them. We're going to start off with Georgia. Now, Georgia, it was very, very close. If you remember, you might remember this from 2020. Very, very close. There's a lot going on in Georgia. Any of these states could go either way, but I've got a gun to my head here. It's time to make last-minute predictions. Let's see how this goes. We're going to give Georgia and the 16 electoral votes over to Donald Trump. He's got a slight but consistent polling lead there. The fundamentals of the state, I still think, lean a little bit red. You saw I went through the 2022 House vote there, favors Republicans. They put Kemp in office as well. I still think this is, by the slightest margin, still a red state, and it's one of the clearer ones when it comes to polling, though it's going to be close. So I give Georgia 16 electoral votes over to Donald Trump. North Carolina, 16 electoral votes. We take those and we give them to Donald Trump. Trump wins North Carolina with 16. Again, same situation roughly as Georgia. It's a very close state. It could go either way. If these two went opposite directions, I wouldn't be shocked, but I think Donald Trump, again, with a small but persistent lead in the polls, holds on to North Carolina in very, very close margin. Maybe if there's a polling difference between these, if there's anything you can suss out of all these 7 swing states, probably the clearest thing we've seen is Arizona going to Donald Trump. 11 electoral votes go to Trump. This is a persistent 2 or 3 point lead. You do have that a larger Hispanic population that seems to be moving a little bit toward Donald Trump. That is significant there. Look, it's still a traditional red state. In 2020, you think about really kind of the worst case situation for a Republican running for office in Arizona with obviously COVID going on and all that other stuff. So a slight loss there in 2016. All these go to Donald Trump. Next up, we have Nevada. This is one of these states I went back and forth on multiple times. My initial thought on this was, look, Donald Trump, when Biden was running, Trump's outlier polling, like if you were to look at all the swing states and say which one looks better for Donald Trump than you would see in any other state, I would have gone with Nevada. When Biden was in there, his polling was incredible in Nevada. Also, the no tax on tips thing. I mean, it's kind of like one of the most famous proposals of this campaign. You'd think in Nevada, I'm convincing myself the other way again. You think in Nevada it probably goes and maybe moves enough people to go to Donald Trump. The Senate race is still quirky there, and I'm nervous about it on the Republican side. I went back and forth on this like 10 times, I'll be honest with you. And I wound up going with Kamala Harris winning Nevada with 6 electoral votes. Okay, I know everyone loves that. They love when I pick Kamala Harris on these states. Okay, next up, Michigan. Michigan, 15 electoral votes, obviously big blue wall state. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here, a very, very close election. Michigan has been a state where, one of the things that makes me nervous about Michigan is there have been a decent amount of election law changes leading up to this race, obviously by Democrats, a lot of persistent, hardcore push by unions and such in Michigan. And I will say another big factor for me in this particular state was the appearance of RFK Jr. RFK Jr., obviously a Trump supporter now, could not get his name off the ballot there. Some polls are showing him getting like 3% of the vote still, even though he doesn't want to be in the race. We're to give these 15 electoral votes over to Kamala Harris. All right, we are down to the nitty-gritty here. Next up, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is another state where RFK Jr. is on. I went back and forth on this one multiple times. I literally, as I'm standing here about to place this, I'm regretting my decision. because I'm now worried about it even more. Here's what kind of won me over. And let me give you this stat. You guys got the 1 day to election in history RCP chart. If you happen to have that, you can pull it up. But if you look at all these states, you see a polling error.
Let me just stop this guy for a second. He just alluded to people being stupid. And he's right. If there are people in Michigan or Wisconsin where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is still on the ballot and they decide they want to vote for him because they think he's still running, then they shouldn't be allowed to vote. There should be some kind of test. You have to show some kind of social or political aptitude before you're allowed to vote. It's a privilege, and only people who know what the hell they're doing should be allowed to cast a vote. Dumb people should not be allowed to cast a vote. Now, there's going to be people who you consider dumb on the left and people who consider right people from the left dumb. But that's just how they think politically, right? It's not about being misinformed. It's just about deciding who it is you want to vote for. But if you don't know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is no longer running for president in this election and that now he's on Team Trump, well, then you shouldn't be allowed to cast a, whoa there, Bob. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to leave the line. You don't know. Seriously, you don't know. All right, let's continue.
Are moving toward Donald Trump, and a lot of them. You see, in Nevada, Biden was favored by 3.3. Trump is now favored by 1. You look at Pennsylvania. Biden and Clinton were both, 2 point favorites, and Trump now a 0.3% favorite, according to Real Clear Politics. Michigan, you see, Clinton 3 and 4 points and 5 points up, with Biden 5 points up. Harris only up by 1.2. We've seen misses in all of these states. And what I remember about 2020 and 2016 was they just could not get Wisconsin right. Part of the reason why you think Donald Trump might win this race is that the polling error goes the same way. It's not a guarantee. They've definitely tried to solve the problems with previous cycles. But at the end of the day, they missed so badly in Wisconsin twice by 6, 7, 8 points that I just don't think they're going to be able to nail this. They're showing the polling really, really close. I've decided to put Wisconsin in the category of Donald Trump with the 10 electoral votes. Finally, Pennsylvania, the big ticket item. We all know Pennsylvania. Everyone's been talking about Pennsylvania the entire time. It's the big swing state. It's the state that's going to make the difference. Again, really, really close. What do the charts say? Pennsylvania, Donald Trump favored by 0.3 points. Now, both times previous elections, again, there was a moderate, actually kind of a normal polling error, maybe a little bit better than normal in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's polls didn't miss by as much as we kind of remember because of the drama of the state. Maybe we'll go into this a little bit later if we have time. But Pennsylvania is one of those states that it will look like on election night, Donald Trump takes a big lead, and then the Democrat starts picking up from behind. And you might say, well, that's, maybe the election's being stolen. And who knows? I mean, I don't have, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But what I will say is that is what you should expect because of the way they count their votes. You should expect the reverse in Arizona. Arizona, it should look like Donald Trump is down at the beginning, and then he catches up. These are quirks in the election system to remember. But at the end, Pennsylvania, a state that is a really tough one, honestly, to pick. I've decided to put Donald Trump in control of those 19 electoral votes. Now, that will, of course, change our math here a little bit, as instead of 23 electoral votes leaning Democrat, we now have 44 leaning Democrat, and instead of 80 electoral votes leaning Republican, we now have 152 leaning Republican. So where do we go? What's the, oh, by the way, there's now, none in the toss-up category because you forced me to do that. Okay, so none in the category. What does this mean for the final count? The final count, Kamala Harris, 247 electoral votes. Donald Trump, 291 electoral votes. All of that to say, that the official prediction of the Stu Does America program, with incredibly limited confidence, is Donald Trump 291 to Kamala Harris 247. Donald Trump becomes the second president in history to have a presidential term, take one off, and then get the gig back. Donald Trump, your next president of the United States.
Okay, the results continue to pour in. Shall we look? Let's look. Let's see what's going on here. Ohio, about an hour ago, was in question because Ohio was blue. That's J.D. Vance's home state. He's running for VP, obviously. He is currently a senator, the junior senator from Ohio. It's turned red now here on the New York Times map, and it looks like Donald Trump will, in fact, run away with it. 59% reporting in Ohio. Trump leading 54.6% of the vote to Kamala Harris's 44.6% of the vote. Are there any surprising states on this map you see? Ooh, he was just talking about Pennsylvania. Let's have a look at Pennsylvania with only 26% reporting. 55.4% of people are voting for Kamala Harris. Only 43.5% of people have voted for Donald Trump. But in Wisconsin, look what's going on there. Only 10%, still early. Trump is leading in Wisconsin, 53.3% of the vote to Harris's 45.3% of the vote. Florida's already been called for Donald Trump, as has Texas. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, South Carolina. Georgia's still in play. Let's see what's going on in Georgia. People were worried about Georgia. Trump is comfortably in front there by 5 percentage points. North Carolina, Trump is comfortably in the lead there by 4 percentage points. This one is a bit of a surprise. 56% reporting. Now, this could change, guys, overnight. Suddenly there could be a problem with the counting, and we're going to just call it for the night, come back and finish tomorrow morning, and then all those guys with the boxes come in. This is 56% reporting in Virginia. Donald Trump leading barely there, 50.1% of the vote to 48.2% of the vote. So as it stands right now, you got to get to 270. Donald Trump is at 178 and Kamala Harris is at 99, with California polls still open there. Oregon, the same in Washington. She's going to take all of those. We don't know about Nevada. That's a toss-up. Arizona looks like it's going to be Trump. New Mexico and Colorado look like they're going to be blue. Utah will be red. Montana, Idaho will be red. Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa will be red. And we don't know about Michigan yet. Kamala Harris is in the lead there, but only 12% reporting. And in Pennsylvania, we can't like that too much. Not at all. Some people are wondering how this is going to affect Canada. Not necessarily for trade. Yeah, there's people talking about that. But politically, some are suggesting that the reason Justin Trudeau has stayed as leader of the Liberal Party, hasn't stepped down, hasn't called an election, hasn't prorogued Parliament yet, is because he's been waiting for the U.S. election. If Trump wins, Trudeau sees that as an opportunity to run against Trump by painting Pierre Poilievre as Trump North. Right? I can see that. They've been throwing abortion out there a lot lately. I'm not sure if you guys are on X, but if you are and you follow any of these Liberal MPs and cabinet ministers, you'll notice they all sing from the same songbook depending on the day, right? Well, today it's going to be abortion. We're talking about abortion. The next day it's going to be, how come Poilievre doesn't get clearance to see the names? They all do that. They're going to ramp up. I can tell you, if Trump wins this election, they're going to ramp up the rhetoric about Poilievre being Trump North, and Trudeau is going to spend the next 6 months pounding that because he's seen the polls and he knows that 65 or 70% of Canadians would vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump if we could vote down there, which is sad. There's a guy called he's got a channel on YouTube. It's called Radio Reaction. And I found this piece interesting, so I'm going to play it for you.
Morning, guys. So I found another...
And the other reason is I just like this guy. I find him amusing.
Well, listen to another one of those little exclusive radio interviews. This was with Wayne Long. Now, if you don't know Wayne Long, he's an MP in New Brunswick, and he was one of the people who went up against Justin Trudeau. And he was asked, what did Justin Trudeau actually say to him when he got on a one-to-one privately talking to him? Have a listen.
Anyway, to answer your question, how did he take it? He listened. He didn't seem disengaged, as MPs are always kind of looking for the Prime Minister's reaction. He talked to me actually after Atlantic Caucus. We had a chat about it. He, said he respected the fact that I would tell him these things to his face when, many don't. So, he took it like a champ.
And several hours later, he comes onto the TV and he does an interview and he says, "Oh, I'm staying on. What about all the backbenchers? What about that? Oh, no, not listening to them guys." So basically, he's not even listening to people who are trying to convince him that he's not the right person to lead the Liberal Party into the next election. Don't get me wrong. I want him to lead them into the next election so that he can lose, because Justin Trudeau's just never really lost anything, has he? Really? He's silver spooned all the way up to where he is now. He's basically just a millionaire dictator at the moment. So, and Canada doesn't even care about. Canada doesn't want him. Most of Canada, looking at the polling, doesn't want him.
The Prime Minister believes fully that he can turn that around, and that when Canadians actually come to focus more on choices between Pierre Poilievre and obviously Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister fully believes that people will come around and weigh the two leaders, weigh the programs, the style, whatever, and people will choose Justin Trudeau. Now, could that happen? Sure, it could happen.
So the radio interviewer said something really, really good here. He says, "No, Justin Trudeau is just run out of runway."
We would have a much better chance of winning, because my fear is that a Pierre Poilievre government will reverse a lot of the programs that we've done. And if we continue on this kind of stay calm and carry on attitude, I can pull quotes. It's almost uncanny. You can pull quotes from May of 2018 from Kathleen Wynne and MLAs in her party, and people that ran her campaign that are almost mirror imaged of where we are right now.
What did Justin Trudeau actually say to him when he got on a one-to-one privately talking?
All right, so the Liberals feel, and there's many of the same people who are running Trudeau right now, who were running Kathleen Wynne when she was the Premier of Ontario. They're saying we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And the MPs, the dissident MPs, are very concerned that history is going to repeat itself. But I think what I told you guys before is that Trudeau is waiting for the results. Now, if Kamala Harris wins the election tonight, he won't have Donald Trump to run against. What could the fallout be from this election if it's a close election? Are there going to be riots? Depending on who wins, I guess if either side wins. If Trump wins, you're going to see Antifa out there. If Harris wins, I don't think that there's going to be any kind of disruption. Maybe there will. I don't know. Are they going to arrest Trump immediately if Harris wins? A lot of people feel that way. There was an interesting conversation between Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro on a roundtable about what the possible consequences could be as early as tomorrow, maybe Thursday.
I've been painting this worst case scenario, so that I get prophecy points. If it turns out being right.
Talking about it.
But here's your disaster scenario. Your disaster scenario is Trump picks up North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Okay, it takes him to 268. He then loses 270 to 268. There is only one problem. The 2020 census was wrong. The Census Department has acknowledged the 2020 census was wrong.
The key is that they've admitted that it was wrong, and so the arguments are going to be even they've admitted.
Correct. And they dramatically population in places like Florida and in places like Texas, and they dramatically overcounted in places like New York and Delaware and Rhode Island, by 5 percentage points in some places. The population in these places, electoral votes get allocated on the basis of the 2020 census. So if they had actually done the count properly, Trump could lose all of the blue wall states and still win the election. And so if it ends up being 270 to 268, with Trump winning the states that we just mentioned, Florida is going to file a lawsuit, and it will end up at the Supreme Court, because they will say they have been materially harmed. People have been disenfranchised in the state of Florida by the failure to properly count their vote because of the census data. And then it'll be up to the Supreme Court with 3 Trump appointees to figure out whether that's true. Now, my guess is that the court will probably kick that case. My guess is the court will say that's a political question. We're not going to touch it. You know, that should have been ironed out by the legislature. But is that going to make anybody feel any better? Probably not.
Now, so Ben, let me hold on. I want to add to that. You saw the Fifth Circuit Court ruling from Mississippi. Did you see this one?
I missed it.
Fifth Circuit Court ruled that ballots received after Election Day, even if postmarked before Election Day, are illegal to be counted. Now, this is just the Fifth Circuit. We saw in, I believe it was in Nevada, a totally counter ruling from the federal courts. There's a probability that come tomorrow night, Donald Trump is clearly ahead, but not by enough. And they say with mail-in votes coming in several states, we may see a repeat of 2020 where Kamala actually ends up winning. Kamala ends up winning. Republicans sue, citing the Fifth Circuit ruling, goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, of course you can't count ballots that came in after the election. Cuts them all out. Democrats then say, but we did win. Those were ballots. Trump's cronies just threw them out and stole the election.
Yeah, that's right. Which they've been kind of preparing the landscape with that by calling the Supreme Court, Trump's right wing court and all the things.
Did you see Jamie Raskin on Mar? So Jamie Raskin was on Mar, right? And he openly said that we'll certify the election if we feel that it was free and fair. Which, like, dude, I mean, come on.
If we feel that it's free and fair.
This is exactly what you were ripping Trump for in 2020, and now you're doing the exact same thing. This is why whenever you get the Trump is a threat to democracy bullshit, it's like, okay, guys, you do all the exact same things that Donald Trump did and would do, and then you claim it's a threat to democracy when he does it. But when you do it, it's a defense of democracy. And this all spirals out of control. I think that there are a bunch of things that have happened in American life that are truly bad over the course of the last 10 years. Among them, the fact that we have not unified any of our voting procedures. So I live in the amazing state of Florida, which fixed all of its voting after 2000. So after 2000, with the debacle, with the butterfly ballots and all of that, we fixed our voting, which means that we count all of our early voting early, right? All that stuff's been tabulated. And then everybody who votes day of, you feed your thing in the machine, it's counted all of it. 5 minutes after the polls close, you're going to have a result from Florida. It's really easy. It's not difficult at all. And none of these other states have done it. That is a complete mess. And, and then you have just the fact that I think in the minds of both parties, something is fundamentally broken. So as long as I've been alive, the general rule was when somebody loses a presidential election, the going theory is the reason why they lost the presidential election is because they weren't good enough to win. Right? This is true for my entire life. If H.W. loses to Clinton, it's because H.W. wasn't good enough. If Dole loses to Clinton, it's because he wasn't good enough. If Gore lost to Bush, because he wasn't good. Kerry, same thing. McCain with Obama, same thing. Romney, same thing. Then 2016. And in 2016, the left could not believe, for love or money, that Donald Trump was a better candidate than Hillary. And so they shifted the logic. It was Hillary definitely couldn't have lost because she was a shit candidate. She lost because of Facebook and just because of the Russians, and she lost because of all these other reasons. And the right responded to that in 2020 by being like, well, he didn't lose because he was a worse candidate than the dead guy. It must have been all of these other facts. The problem is when both parties refuse to acknowledge that their candidate possibly could have lost to the other guy, then where does all that energy go? Back at the system.
Yeah. So who knows? Who knows? I'm going to show you guys the latest stuff, the latest results. And again, very, very, very early on in the situation here. But there are a couple of states traditionally blue or traditionally red that are not right now. And again, like I said, I want to stress this is very, very early. New Mexico, which is a traditionally blue state, is red right now with only 19% of the polling in. It shows Donald Trump here at 50.1% to Harris's 48.2%. Kansas has flipped back to red. It was blue for a brief time. Donald Trump now with 50% of the votes in Kansas and Kamala Harris at 48.5%. This is very concerning, very interesting in Iowa with 17%. And again, very, very early, very early. Kamala Harris 54 44 there. And Missouri, 22% reporting. Harris leads 49.7 to 49.2. Now that's tight. And it's probably going to flip over to Trump as the polling continues to come in. Look at Minnesota. This has been a blue state since 1972. For 52 years, it's been a blue state. That's Tim Walz's home state. That's where he's governor. Now, this is only 1% of the polls. So Minnesota will be a blue state, but it's interesting to show that Donald Trump currently leads at 58.4%, and Harris is 39.5%, but that's going to switch over. The concerning ones right now for Donald Trump would be Pennsylvania with 32%. And again, very, very early on. You're not going to be calling any of these races yet. It's going to be a couple of hours if it happens tonight at all. 51.8% for Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania to Trump's 47.3%. These are the blue wall states, they call them. It's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and they are all blue right now. But Virginia, with 58% reporting, shows Donald Trump leading. That's a surprise. So there could be a couple of curveballs that happen later on in the evening that turn things around and gives Trump a victory, but in a kind of a cockeyed way. Not according to any pattern, rhyme, or reason that people have been predicting for the past couple of years now. I find this very interesting. Here is a story. Oh, this was in Georgia. I think I said earlier it was in Pennsylvania. My bad. It was in Georgia. Bomb threats temporarily disrupted voting in crucial Georgia counties. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said some of the threats are coming from Russia. Of course they're coming from Russia. Bomb threat temporarily disrupted voting in Stone Mountain. So they kept the polls open there for another 22 minutes because that's how long voting was disrupted. I found this to be interesting. This story coming from NBC News. The Proud Boys claim they'll be at polling places as Trump ups violent rhetoric and election fraud claims. Oh. Though several Proud Boys leaders remain in prison on January 6th charges, the far-right militia group remains active, with some chapters saying they'll watch the polls tonight. They're going to be watching them. Donald Trump yet again tells his supporters he can lose Tuesday only if there's massive voter fraud, and he ramps up violent rhetoric about Democrats and other enemies. I cannot believe how one-sided these media are. Absolutely deplorable. They are without shame. And I don't know if I think it's probably in the United States, they flaunt it. Here in Canada, it's far more subdued, but still obviously there. Members of the Proud Boys, far-right group, that put more boots on the ground than any other at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, say they're mobilizing. Mobilizing. The last time Trump tried to overturn his election, I can't even get through this. What I could tell you is the gist of this particular article from NBC says that the Proud Boys claim they're going to be watching polling places, as they should be, after what happened last time. It was embarrassing. The Canadian Independent, which has become one of my favorite Canadian news sources, gives us this today. And here's the report, by the way, that goes along with it. We could go through the entire thing here. I read it earlier today, and there's a lot of confusing stuff. It's very boring, very dry reading. I put the link in the comments for Facebook and for YouTube and for X and Rumble. So if you guys want to go ahead and look at it for yourselves, you can. But here is the story. New CDC report reveals COVID-19 vaccination rates among healthcare workers have plummeted to an all-time low, with staff citing safety and efficacy concerns. Now, excuse me a second. Hold on. We're just gonna take this. So let me get this straight for these medical professionals. They've now had an extra 3 years to perfect this vaccine formula as compared to what it was when it first came out, right? And by the way, that's still not enough time to actually come up with a safe and effective remedy or preventative measure for any sort of virus. The quickest vaccine known to man before all of this nonsense started a few years ago was for the mumps or the measles. I think it was the mumps in the 1960s, and that was 5 years. And that was rushed, right? So here we are 3 years later, and these medical professionals are now saying they don't want to take it because they're concerned about safety and efficacy. Now? A new CDC report published on Halloween has documented an all-time low in COVID vaccine uptake among healthcare workers across the United States during the 2023-24 respiratory virus season. This decline in vaccination coverage, highlighted in the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, reflects a broader trend of vaccine hesitancy among healthcare staff, particularly in nursing homes and acute care hospitals, as COVID vaccine rates continue to drop. The CDC's data shows that only 15.3% of healthcare workers in acute care hospitals and 10.5% of those in nursing homes received the updated vaccine during the study period, which ran from October 1st, 2023 to March 31st of this year. These rates are markedly lower than the previous year's coverage, which was 17.8% in hospitals and 22.8% in nursing homes. Vaccination rates varied by staff category within both hospitals and nursing homes. In acute care hospitals, employees reported a vaccination rate of 15.9%. Licensed independent practitioners had a rate of 12.7%, and volunteers or trainees recorded a 14.5% coverage. Nursing homes showed a similar spread, with licensed independent practitioners reporting the highest rate at 18.8% compared to 10% for employees and 16.1% for trainees and volunteers. One reason for the decline in vaccination is the lifting of federal mandates. In June of 2023, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services ended their requirement for healthcare workers to be vaccinated. The report also explored vaccine hesitancy, noting that many healthcare workers expressed reservations about the vaccine's effectiveness and safety. Recent surveys cited in the report by the CDC indicate that while healthcare workers acknowledge the risks posed by COVID, they're often hesitant to get vaccinated or recommend vaccination to patients. You can read the report, like I put in the comments on all of the social medias. So let me get this straight. I didn't get vaccinated, as you guys know, those of you who have been following the show for quite some time. And maybe some of you did, or maybe your relatives or friends did, or you had to take them to the clinic because they insisted, they threw a tantrum, whatever. I've heard stories of people going to be vaccinated, and I've seen some video of this as well. But I've heard stories of people going to be vaccinated and having a complete breakdown, emotional breakdown, as they're just at the moment they're being jabbed. And the only reason they did it is because they wanted to keep their jobs. And that's exactly what these governments did to us. Never forget that. These people, against every fiber of their being. Have you ever done something that's completely and totally against every fiber of your being? It's like you can't do it. I recall once I was working on radio doing a morning show at a rock station in Winnipeg. This is over 30 years ago. And they had this big bungee jumping crane that was situated just outside the radio station at the grounds of the Red River X, back when it was at the old stadium arena. And I stood on that platform for an hour. And I wanted to go, but I couldn't make my body go. I actually didn't really want to go, but I said I would go on the radio that morning, not realizing how petrifying it would be. Standing 250 feet above the ground with this cable attached, in my opinion, haphazardly around my waist and ankles, I kind of thought, this is not safe. I can't do this. This is terrible. And my body would not move towards the edge of that platform. Eventually, my partner pushed me off the edge and I went. But that wasn't my choice. Because every fiber of my being was screaming at me, do not do this. This is stupid. And that's the only comparison that I can draw to the turmoil that all of these folks went through when they had to go and sit down and get that shot. Let's go and check out our friend Election Time and see what he's doing here.
This is what Trump and Republicans want to see. We're probably not going to see too much of a difference in the results here. Trump has already won Ohio. He's probably going to win it by 10. So, yeah, I do believe we can probably make a call for the Ohio Senate race pretty soon, but we're going to be a little bit more cautious here. Although there are some Senate races that I would like to project at this time. We have a lot of results from Maryland now in. Angela Ulster-Brooks is going to win there. In Maine, not too much yet. Virginia, Tim Kaine is struggling as hung cow. This is going to be probably the closest election for Tim Kaine ever. Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar is losing. So yeah, all across the map, Republicans just are not seeing what they're looking for. Democrats are not seeing what they're looking for. And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the theme of the night.
So he's covering senatorial right now. Let's go back to the map here and see what's what, shall we? And there's going to be some polls closing in another 5 minutes. So more states are going to be reporting in, and the results continue to trickle in here. We know that the dark red states have already been declared. The dark red and the dark blue states have already been declared. So New York, Maine, 2nd District, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Illinois, they've all been declared Democrat, and look at all the red. The light red you see here is definitely leaning, or Republicans leading in those races, and the blue you're seeing is obviously the Democrats leading. This is a concerning one here, 24%. So it looks like that race is tightening in Iowa. But Trump has won. He completely smoked Iowa the first 2 times he ran. So this is a surprise. Again, it's only 24% reporting right now. Minnesota, only the 1% reporting right now. Wisconsin's got 34% reporting. And Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are virtually tied there. They are separated by, what's that, 68 votes. That's crazy. Crazy. Virginia, 60% reporting now. Trump leading there. That's a big surprise. That's a huge surprise of the night. So if Harris does win in Pennsylvania, this win in Virginia, if it holds, could counteract this loss in Pennsylvania, which nobody saw coming. And again, still to close polls, all the West Coast states, Alaska, Hawaii, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho. I'm going to be up all night with this, you guys. I hope you are as well. But in the meantime, there's something that you should know, and that is about the United Nations Global Compact. This was reported on about a month ago. I've talked about it a couple of times here. And, you know, is any election really going to matter going forward? Not if the United Nations has anything to do with it. And that's why it's so important that Donald Trump win. I put on a video the other night, I think it was last night, on the extension for the All Access folks at shadowdavis.com. And it talked about why Operation Warp Speed, initiated by Donald Trump, actually saved us from the cabal enacting their globalist plot and putting us all in camps. It's a very, very fascinating video. And it's still up. That show is still up, obviously, on the website for All Access members. So in case you missed that, you want to go back and watch that. And Donald Trump also removed remember, he removed the United States from the World Health Organization, which he would probably do again in a heartbeat, because he's going to have RFK Jr. as his health guy. So yeah, he'll take the United States right out of the World Health Organization, and possibly, and this would be wild, the United Nations? Do you think that Trump would have the balls to take the United States out of the United Nations? Or at least go for several hardcore reforms? And the reason I say that is I want to show you guys some stuff about this. The Pact for the Future, it's what this is called, the UN Pact for the Future. It's an ambitious and comprehensive framework to strengthen international cooperation and revitalize multilateralism. It was adopted by the UN General Assembly September 23rd at the Summit for the Future. The pact outlines actions in 5 broad areas: sustainable development. Okay, so anybody who's wondering about these 15-minute cities that are coming to town, your municipality, your city, there it is right there. It's right there in the UN wording of this particular document, the Pact for the Future. Here it is. Science, technology, they say, international peace and security, innovation, digital cooperation. The other day, Trudeau just tried to backdoor this digital identity thing to us, and the conservatives were all up in arms about that. It also contains 2 annexes, the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations. So let's scroll down here. The sustainable development we already pretty much know about. Let's move down. International peace and security. Yeah. The one I want to get to, not this one. It's the next one down, I think, here. Yeah. Transforming global governance. What? I'm sorry, did anybody ask for that? Did you vote for transforming governance? National, international, or otherwise? I didn't. Did I miss something? Was I sick that day? This is Action 38 of this compact. We will transform global governance and reinvigorate the multilateral system to tackle the challenges and seize the opportunities of today and tomorrow. I think if most people in the world actually knew about this, they'd be freaking out a little bit. Most people who are kind of tuned into what's going on. Other people, is there football on? Anyway, the proposals in the H-Lab Advisory Report advance a vision of international cooperation and global governance that is less hierarchical. Try and say that yourself. Right? It's not easy. Hierarchical. And more networked, wherein decision-making is distributed and the efforts of a large number of different actors are harnessed towards a collective mission. We are the Borg. You will be assimilated. Life as you know it is over. Resistance is futile. Holy crap. Just look at all this. You guys can find this on the UN website. It's right there. Pact for the Future, the UN Pact for the Future. Oh, man, that's wild. All right, one more look at this election map before we wrap it up and go to the extension on shadowdavis.com. Oh, by the way, what do you think billionaire CEO of BlackRock thinks about the election that's going on right now? Larry Fink. What do you think he thinks about it? Do you think he'd be cheering for Kamala? You'd think that, right? I'll tell you what he thinks in the extension for all access members in just a second at shadowdavis.com. So here we go. Pennsylvania's flipped back red, as you can see here, but not by much. And the polls seem very accurate about what was going to happen in Pennsylvania. I mean, 43% reporting right now. Trump is leading 49.9% to 49.2%. That's like not quite 20,000 votes. That's tight. Minnesota, 2% reporting now, and Trump is leading. That's not going to stay. Just so you're aware. Wisconsin, kind of a surprise that at 36% reporting, Trump is leading by 14,000 votes there. Kansas. So, by the way, just so you're aware, if Minnesota stays this way, it won't. Could, but it won't. That would completely offset this Iowa swing, which is weird that Kamala Harris is leading in Iowa right now. But again, only 30% of polls reporting in. Pennsylvania at 44% now, showing that lead tightening up. Holy crap. Did that flip over while I've been talking to you guys? Wasn't it just red a second ago? It flipped back blue. That's going to be a crazy one. So if you want to follow this, it's the New York Times election map. If you want to continue following all night long, if you don't want to watch that corporate media coverage, where they're interrupted every second by somebody's victory speech, some senator or congressman or congresswoman. I'd like to thank all of you for being involved in my campaign. All of that nonsense. If you just want the numbers, you don't want to be interrupted by, anybody's opinion or analysis about what's going on, then this is for you. The New York Times election map is available. Look at that. It's on Google, right? That's pretty easy to find. We're going to continue on with the extension in just a couple of minutes for all access members at shadowdavis.com. For those of you not following us there, I'll catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I'll see you again tomorrow night. All access. I'll see you in 2 minutes.